There we are. Boom. Ready to go. That's right. It is. We're going live today, right? No recording, stuff like that. But I got to tell you, there's been a lot of things that I've learned over the last, 60 years. But really over the last couple of weeks, months, about this using StreamYard, the programming, all the rest of that kind of stuff. So it's been kind of fascinating run. Shall we say, to do that? Let's go here. This way I can see comments. Good afternoon, all. And this morning, really thrilled. I gave a presentation over at the Stony Brook, well, actually online for the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center over at Stony Brook. So thank you, Ronnie, for the invitation to do that. And again, it was another learning experience. What'd you say? I spoke and it was a learning experience for me. Yeah, it was. Doesn't that happen with you? Don't you find that you learn something every time you speak? Maybe it's in your preparation for the presentation that you did. I jotted down some notes in here as to what I was going to talk about. Maybe look at that. But what about when you also delivering the speech and then you have somebody ask you an interesting question? Yeah. What about the questions that come up that are actually not the questions you expected to hear? Oh, and I don't mean that they were far off base, but it was a matter of using social media and how they're approaching using social media and networking and stuff like that. All right, let me get a little bit more specific with that. My intention or my presentation had to do with when you are attending an event, but the interest was not just attending an event, and it depended upon the events that they were attending. If you're attending a networking event, like a BNI or a tip, where you're meeting the same people all the time, well, you want to know something, you know who your audience is, so you don't need to go research them. And that's what I had mentioned in there, is about making sure that everybody had their full names up on the screen. So Brian A. Cohen, I could probably even do that better, because if you Google me, I don't know if I could change it right now, but if you Google Brian A. Cohen, you might come up with me. If you Google Brian A. Cohen DTM, you will come up with me. I think there's only one Brian A. Cohen DTM out there, I think. Who knows? But anyhow, it shows up on Google. So the idea was, is if you had a full name on there, it's easier for me to Google you if you're in a conference meeting or your Zoom event, where there's a lot of people. So if I want to be more effective in my networking efforts, I want you to put your full name up. If you, as an attendee, want to be seen by other people and contacted by other people, that name block that you have over there is super important. It's so important. I'll even change that a little bit, as that goes. But it's really, really important for you to highlight it and make it easy for you to be found. Put your name in there if you want. Put your website in there if you'd like. You could put an email address in there, if you so wish. Whatever is the best thing for you to put there for people to be able to find you, that makes sense. The suggestion I made was to take a screenshot. This way you have it there. So that was in a meeting where you don't know a lot of people, or if you're attending something where people don't know you, that is the most efficient way for you to keep your information out there. Very easy for people to see and find. Again, the suggestion was take the screenshot. So now I have it. Now, of course, it would be nice if every time we attended one of these meetings, everybody put in that little chat room for everyone to see everybody's email addresses and contact information and stuff like that. I don't think I've attended a meeting yet where that has happened. And I'm not too sure how many meetings I've attended where I'm able to download that list where I have it too. It depends on different settings, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but maybe you can't even download that whole thing. So that doesn't do it. So your most efficient way for you to get everybody's information to see who's been at the event is that, taking a screenshot. Most efficient way for people to be able to find you after the event is going to be that, by putting your contact information over there. And do it that way. You can even look them up while the meeting's going on. But the questions that came up had a lot more to do with just regular social media being found, not that. Again, the difference is if you're attending a BNI LATIT meeting or something like that, SBDC meeting where you know the normal attendees, then first name is fine. It doesn't matter that much. But if you're attending something otherwise, it's different. But the questions really came out about using social media, effectively using social media. It's been a question now for quite a while, hasn't it? It's gotten more and more important as we've gone on. So that was my big learning moment. So in the idea of sharing information with you, I'm going to have guests on that are using social media in their own way that's been effective for them. This way we could all kind of learn from that. What I've been doing, you're watching it right now. We're doing the vodcast over here. Hey, Michael, good to see you. Karen, wife, always nice to have her chime in on these things. So it's that's it. That's exactly it. So those comments, every time somebody comments on something, it's kind of seen a little bit more. It's picked up a little bit more. Those worldly algorithms help out a little bit more. I'm doing this program over here, doing it through StreamYard. Okay. StreamYard, and the reason why I chose that one, it's super easy to put it out on a couple of different platforms. So it winds up on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Easy enough. So that's, like I said, just super easy, to make that work. And nice being able to see the comments too. So I've got a YouTube channel now. All the rest of that, the more I use those keywords, naturally flowing words, that you would probably use. There's a little bit of a nuance here, but naturally flowing words that you would use to describe your business that is specific to you in some respects, but also some of the words that would describe your business, your industry, your effort. If I'm looking to do a podcast, what word am I going to use? Podcast. If I never use the word podcast and I only use the word media consultant, you're not going to find me. I got to use that and use that effectively. So in the descriptions, I'm using it more and more. How am I putting the descriptions out? A couple of different ways. Sometimes it's these comments that go along, but I've also reached out to social post buddy, James Martinez. So James, who has been a guest, he'll be going again too. So James developed Social Post Buddy, which is a super easy system to use and also very cost efficient, super cost efficient if you count the time that gets tossed into a thing, but super cost efficient where you're able to put the description in of whatever it is that you're doing. In this case, I'm announcing XYZ guest is coming on. I did that on Monday when I had David Shemetsky on. So I use that thing, and more keywords I use in there for him and me, plenty of space. What? And it's actually asked me for keywords that could be used. Then it allows the SEO. But that's the questions I got today. Those are the questions that came up. It wasn't just at the meetings. It was about the whole idea of networking, about how people find you. Super important. So question to you is, how do people find you? Well, it's is a big difference. Michael, I just read your thing in there. Things to me were a lot different, BC, before COVID. Okay, yeah, I get that. Then you're the rest of the day. You're kind of funny, my friend. You're good. I don't know, Michael. I don't know if you've been attending events, like physically attending events, but it's tougher and tougher. Which is another thing that came up too. It's like, let's assume that, and there's a wide variety of events now where you can go in person, or there's plenty of events that take place that are online. Which one do you go to? From a time standpoint, oh, you're just going to the online, forget about the in person. From a personal standpoint, from a really getting to know somebody, you're just going in person. Well, some of this is also going to depend upon your business. Which one are you going to? Are you going to the online one? You meet more people, you don't have those one on one conversations. Are you going to the in person stuff? You're not getting a big geographical reach, but you are getting a chance to speak to people a little bit more personally. Going back BC, before COVID, Michael, not before me. When I was going to events, I tried to arrange to meet a couple of people at the event. This way, I was able to schedule a brief business meeting or get together. These are the folks that you just your schedules don't match up and stuff like that. So you give them a call. Say, hey, I'll be at David Gustin's event. So perfect for that. Absolutely perfect. David Gustin does the 516-631 ads events. Still doing them. Some are in person, some are online. David has been David's been a champion through this whole thing. True champion, as his because he was totally about the in-person events. Now he's kind of mixed it up a little bit. So good stuff. Following all the guidelines, David's doing exactly what he should be doing. But so I've been meeting people. I scheduled to meet people, at these events and do it that way. This way I know at least I've accomplished a few things over there and then see who I meet. But there's no way I'm meeting everybody. You go to an event. Let's just pick 100 people as a number over here. David has an event. Somebody has an event. David has an event. 100 people show up at the event, right? I go. That's good. I do my meeting with those 2 or 3 people. That's good. Am I going to get a chance to meet everybody? Nope. Definitely not. Definitely not. I'll be introduced to a couple more people. I'll introduce a few people to other people, that kind of thing. But, whatever that not. But if those 100 people were on a Zoom call, well, now you do have a chance to at least know who came. You have the attendee list, we'll say, not their contact information, but the attendee list. And that's where I think taking the screenshot and the rest of that stuff makes a lot of sense. So, the big thing is there, how do you define networking? It is probably the biggest that I came up with, on this one. How do you define networking? I'm a big fan of the online stuff. I do a podcast, obviously. That would certainly lead me, in that direction. If you're, and also the geographical limitations of those that I would look to work with, that look to help out with doing either a podcast or a podcast, doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter. I've spoken to Donna Drake Media. Somebody wants to meet inside of a studio. Somebody wants to use a studio setting. Boom, right there in Melville. We're good. If I was networking and only focusing on those that wanted to do an in studio podcast, well, that would be a podcast. Oh, it could be a podcast though. She's got the capabilities. But if only people that want to do something in studio, well, then I would just go to the in person things because it's all people that are local. Little limited as to how many people I'd be able to reach. Focus a lot more on making sure that it's really clear that people are able to refer me as a resource for doing the podcast services and do that. But it doesn't have to be that way. The podcast that can be done through brand story casting the beauty of that one is for people that are in remote locations. You're in one spot. Let's assume, well, any of the programs that I've done over here, I don't have somebody sitting next to me. So that service is more podcast podcast, although that's being looked at. But from a podcast standpoint, if you have a franchise, you have a business partner, you're in one location, they're in another location, the two of you want to do a show together. Hey, you could do it. You do it as a podcast. Everybody gets their microphone. It's all recorded on two separate lines. Nobody's together. The point is the fact that you are not together. You need to be recorded on separate microphones, on separate lines. There is no talking over each other. It does get edited and things like that. So where am I networking that one? Anywhere I darn well please. I can attend any event anywhere, and there's potential, the potential, clients for that thing. So I'm doing that, and I'm going someplace where people don't know me. How do I get noticed? Throw a tomato up in the right corner. Maybe that's an idea. It's like, what's this freaking tomato thing all about? Hey, somebody asks a question like that. What's that tomato thing all about? You now have a conversation. They're getting back to you on something, right? And they're like, tomato talk, and no, and I have no name down there. What are you gonna find me? No, I just spoke to Ed, who does social media marketing, the SEO stuff, and all of the programming behind the whole thing. A lot of programming behind the scenes, and items that are more forward pushing, as we discussed. You Google tomato talk, I'm not coming up. I'm working on it, but I don't come up. You want to learn how to grow a tomato? Absolutely fine. You'll find tomato talk on YouTube. And I only searched YouTube for that one, but you'll find it there. So I need to make it easier for people to find me. You need to make it easier for people to find you. Now, using all of these things and going to these events, saying that you're going to events too, whether you're going physically or not, these are great posts for you to do. Hey, here's a picture of me at one of David's events, having a conversation with somebody at David's events. Shoot a little video, do a little something on that thing. That's networking. It's networking a couple of different ways. Obviously with the person there, and then it also helps you get seen. But that really seems to be the answer on the whole thing. What is networking? I look at networking as marketing, and I think a lot of folks are looking at networking as being seen and being found and that kind of thing. So, are you networking on an outgoing basis where you're getting in front of your potential clients and you're doing it in a strategic manner? Or are you just hoping somebody finds a keyword someplace, and looks you up, that way? I'm gonna tell you this right now before I get all kinds of comments on that one. Is that yes, there's a blend in the whole thing. Nothing is cut and dry. Nothing is just one way or another way. There is a blending of the whole thing, that goes along with it. But there still is the big effort that happens that way. I like to push, we'll say, push the name out, a bit more with doing this program. But when I'm attending a networking event, even if I'm attending somebody else's meeting or something like that, I'm strategically trying to figure out who might have an interest as a referral partner. And many times at networking events, it's more as a referral partner or somebody with a potentially might want to do some sort of a pod or a podcast in order to promote their business. So I'm listening. Well, I'm listening for their keywords. Oh, I'm not sure what to post. I'm having a tough time putting content up. Those kinds of things, and then working with the folks to make that stuff happen. That's where that one goes. So from a guest standpoint, and this is really where I want to go with it. One, from a guest standpoint, if you're in marketing, digital marketing, whatever kind of marketing and things like that, I'd love to chat with you. I see about, having you on as a guest over here. I'm not looking to charge anybody anything, so that's got nothing to do with that. I'm using this program from that aspect of it, is just I love doing this. I just really, truly love doing this whole thing. It's good for me, gets the name out. It's good for, the keywords, all the rest of that. And also, I think it's great for the audience. And in that respect is the fact that we all go through stuff. We all go through so many different things. The question is, how do we get through it? How do we get through those obstacles? It could be a pure business thing. How do I approach networking? To I've got a business. How do I sell my product? It could be something more of a monetary thing, right? It's like, all right, I have this. I want to accomplish this. I don't have the money to do it. How do we do that? How do we do that? And I'm not how do we figure out a strategic partnership, with somebody to make that work? How do we get things to happen? I'm stuck. How do I get out of this rut, whatever it might be? Sometimes a rut is a self-inflicted rut. You made a mistake somewhere down the road. Other times it's not self-inflicted. You're a victim of circumstances. Let's be careful on that word victim too. You just happen to be a recipient of some bad circumstances. So what do you do with it? What do you do with it? The gentleman that I have had the pleasure of meeting, we're going to have to get him back on again. It's been a while. He entered a partnership with somebody. Best of intentions. Terrible outcome. Really terrible outcome. He now speaks about how not to go into a partnership, not have to go into one. How's that for advancing through an obstacle, and learning a bit more? Last partnership he's in will be a lasting partnership, that he's in. Doing a great job with that whole thing. Other folks, look, you looking to hire people? Have you hired somebody and it was a flat out mistake? It's like, oh man, what was I thinking? You learn from that. You want to know the best thing that you could do? Learn from somebody else's mistakes. Why do we have to learn from our own? Sometimes it's a bit more impactful when we learn from our own. But if if you do learn from somebody else's mistakes, it costs you a lot less time, energy, and effort, doesn't it? So there we go. So you're able to do that. So we'll share those things. Some of these mistakes, some of these challenges, some of these obstacles, not going to be huge. They're just going to be whatever it is, that we get through. Other things are going to be opportunities. Go back to our James Martinez social post buddy. He wanted to share things on different sites and stuff like that. And he found he had to retype things out in different format, created social post buddy. Did he know he was creating a product at the time? No. No. What he did know, he was figuring out a more efficient way for him to do it. And he was figuring out a more efficient way for him to do it. He figured, well, there's a lot of other people out there that also need a more efficient way of doing it. Do it. Who's interested in that program? Well, I certainly am and was and are and using it. We'll use it more and more as we continue to move forward. But he's got some professionals that are also looking to and have been using that program, not just folks that are independently out there too. So you never know. You just never know where things are gonna what opportunities will present itself as you continue to move on a more forward-looking basis. And that was something that I truly enjoyed from this morning. I'm going to leave you with this note, too. That was something I truly enjoyed from this morning. I wound up taking a look at one of my blog talk shows from 5 years ago. Ran across that when I was talking about networking 5 years ago. And I reviewed that, listened to it. It's actually a couple of the podcasts from a few days ago. I listened to that and was listening to what I said then and what I say now. And I found it interesting. How's that for self-serving? So, how's that for a self-serving statement? I found myself interesting. Sorry. But the comments made all had to do with in person. I could tell you this right now, 70% of in-person networking versus online networking, of digital networking, it's exactly the same. What is your brand? What are you doing there? Is this the right meeting for you to be at? Are you wasting your time? You got to make those decisions, right? You always have to make those decisions. The other thing I saw from that was that there was a lot of things that I could be doing now better, updating my sites in order to really truly make it a lot more um, clear as to what I'm what what kind of a conversation I would have with somebody if I met you at a networking event, for the first time. He's like, "Hey, Brian, what do you do?" Well, if I don't know who you are, then it becomes a little bit of a different conversation. I might say, host a podcast, always looking for guests. That's good. I might say that I guide people on doing their own podcast, a podcast, but I wouldn't know if I'm speaking to you as a potential guest or perhaps somebody who's got a challenge with marketing and looking to do something different, something a little bit different than everybody else to separate themselves from everybody else. But on my site, if I direct you to the right spot, I can have two different areas for you to go to. One, hey, would you like to be a guest? Or two, would you like would you like to host your own VOD or podcast? I could ask that question on the site. Then you go there and you got all the information. Maybe you're in both categories. Very well could be, you know. But if you're going there and you see that, you're then able to you'll be able to get much more of the information that you need there. It's actually a lot easier and a lot more time efficient, for me. And then that lives all over. So there's a world of possibilities that go along with it. And that was one of the things that it really became clear to me, that using your sites effectively will make a lot more sense. Also, using your sites, should they all be independent from each other? Yes, but if you're promoting something, if you're doing that forward push going out, one spot, one spot. I've gotten emails back. It's like, I got a LinkedIn page, a Twitter page, a Facebook page, Instagram page, TikTok page, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Am I going to look through all of those pages to see what you're about? No. I'm going to pick one. Am I going to pick the one that you want me to look at? Or am I going to pick the one that, I don't know, that just catches my fancy? I'm curious to see how people use TikTok for business. I might go there. That might be your weakest site. Why do you want me to go there? You don't. You're definitely not. Maybe you really just would much prefer to have a phone call with me. Just put your phone number. Maybe it's that email address. Email address, schedule an appointment is my Calendly connection. Hey, that's good. That really is good. Go that route. I'm working through that with me as to what I really want to do, whether it be the website. This website's got a whole bunch of things on there, or one of the social media pages. But I'm actually leaning more toward that Calendly page, the email, getting over to that. So that would be, an email to make it where or maybe just a link right directly to the calendar, and set it up that way. Put a little note in the bottom of that or something along those lines. Or when they actually do schedule a meeting, then I could send them back everything. So we're working through that one. So if you know anything about using that calendar, again, why not? Let's share a little bit of information over here, right? So that would work out pretty well. So that was another little thing that comes up that I learned from myself as to what would be the most effective way of me communicating out what I want to have communicated out. There's a lot of moving parts, my friends. It's an awful lot of moving parts. There's so many things that we could learn. So many different directions to go in. So many different messages that can be delivered. You want to make sure it's the proper message. Your brand is the proper message that is going out, the one that you truly want. How you go about doing it is a little different. And the operational side of it, how you navigate through everything, is going to be a little bit different. But it has to start with, what is that one thing? What is that absolute one thing that you want to have sent to people? And that one website, that one location, that one thing that's going to truly be the clearest message of what your brand is. And that will help answer a lot of other questions as you move along. That's where that one goes. All right. Again, absolute pleasure. It's great. Today's Thursday, right? So that brings us to tomorrow, which would be Friday. We'll see what we can do on Friday. Maybe guest, not a guest. We'll see. And then we're working in that scheduling of things as we continue to move forward on Tomato Talk. Remember, top of mind, advancing through obstacles. It's that simple, man. We can all move forward with it. And remember to do what you do best: speak well, speak often, and live inspired.